And we're back on Build Phase TV. I'm your host, Mr. Ben, and on today's episode, we are going to talk about the final card reveals for the Civil War box. Before I do that, though, normally I go into these and I haven't seen anything except for what's right here. This part of a card that they give us as the preview image. However, today I was speculating that what I wanted to see in this set was a Spider-Man level 1 that was pro registration, that when he leveled up through whatever, I don't know what that condition would be, seeing characters get KO'd, that he became anti-registration at level 2. And in my patron chat, which, by the way, if you like what we're doing here, patreon.com/thebuildphase, join us in the patron chat clubhouse. It's a great place to be. In there, when this was posted, somebody said, "You were so close to being right." So I know a little bit. I'm not going into this totally empty. I know a little bit about this time, and I know that I didn't get exactly what I wanted. But let's dive in and see what we got. I'm so excited for this. Hey, Theo. Good to see you in chat there. Okay. This card art is already a win for me. This card art is a big-time win for me. This is one of my favorite panels it's such an important moment in the story. Okay, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's just read through this paragraph real fast, see if anything's changed. This first paragraph appears to be telling us what they've said every time, that the goal for this set is to evangelize new players, bring new people in, but also keep it powerful and flavorful and fun enough that existing players have something to love as well. Hey, Theo. The next paragraph, we're going to look at a single character. So this is just Spider-Man. This makes me think we're going to get a few versions of Spider-Man in this box, which, why wouldn't we? Spider-Man is like the most ubiquitous character in Marvel. Yeah, you're right, Stax. This is a huge moment right here. To be clear, the full thing that I wanted was a Spider-Man level 1 pro reg. At level 2, he becomes anti-registration and gains AKA Peter Parker. The rest of the card I didn't care about, but I wanted those details. But I'm glad I at least got this art. This is such a big important moment in Marvel Comics for the characters involved and specifically for the storyline that we're talking about here. So let's look at what this guy does. 3-4-6. 3-4 is whatever on a main character. That's fine. He's gonna not get hit by some stuff, which is good. I mean, I like 3-4 better than 4-3 on a main character, and 6 health. I can't complain about that. That's kind of the new standard, I think. Soul Searching. Build phase, yellow. Requisite, Jessica Jones. Reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, put 1 into your hand, and shuffle the rest into your deck. I love that power. Oh, wow. So not only is it card draw, so you pay 1, so it's 1-1, so it's kind of a lateral move in terms of card advantage, but you get to select the card you draw. So it's not just a random thing from your deck, it's a 1-in-4. That's really, really strong. That is stronger than a 1-1 because you're paying 1 and you're selecting the one that replaces it, essentially, in terms of your card advantage. Now, obviously, a location isn't the same value in your overall deck as other cards, but that just in terms of calling cards, you're paying 1 card, you're getting 1 card, but you got to pick it from a choice of 4. That's great. That's great. And the pool that those 4 are pulling from is your deck, which is all cards that you want anyway. So I love this power. Holy smokes. I'm proud of who I am. When you reveal a Spider-Man supporting character from your deck, how do you do that? Oh, because in this power, you reveal the top 4. Oh, okay. I glossed over the reveal part. I thought that I, as the player, got to look at 4 cards and choose one, kind of like the Discover mechanic in Hearthstone. It's not quite like that. You're revealing these cards, and it's weird to me because generally, when you have an effect that lets you get anything you want, you don't have to reveal that information. And it's when an effect is like get an equipment that you have to reveal the card, or get a character that you have to reveal the card, because your opponent has to be able to verify that you're getting a card of the specified type. This lets you get anything you want out of those 4, but you have to reveal it. Now, I get that they built that reveal into his level up condition. So what are the chances? How many different Spider-Mans do we have in Illustrated? A crap ton. But if Spider-Man is your main character, you're not going to be able to like play all of them. So how thick Yeah, that's actually a good point, Stacks. Normally, these types of effects reveal 5. This one only reveals 4. And his experience condition is tied to it. Now, you only have to do it once. So there's... Oh, man, there's so many Spider-Mans. I don't want to try to name... You know what? I'm going to use Pocket Versus here real fast, guys. By the way, shout out to OBS and the Pocket Versus project. If you're on Android, I think it's on iOS as well, but I'm on Android, and you want a mobile-friendly way to search for Versus cards, holy smokes, this is it. So Spider-Man... Oh, I got to put the hyphen in, or else it gives me no results. So there's 35 distinct cards that use Spider-Man. Now, this also includes Mantle Spider-Mans, and Superior Spider-Man, which are not the same card, and main characters. So it's going to be less than 35, but that's still... Let me see if I can filter this for supporting characters real fast here. Wish that supporting character filter was at the top of the list instead of the bottom. And the filter didn't take. This is excellent. Excellent television here. I forgot to hit apply. That was on me, not the fault of the amazing app. Okay, so there's 14 different supporting characters named Spider-Man. This subtract 1 because there's Ultimate Spider-Man there, Superior Spider-Man, Venom. So we're down to 11, I think. Spider-Man 2099, 10. Black Cat doesn't have that name, so that one doesn't count. So 9, 8... There's still a pretty high density. Like if Rogue has 2 supporting character versions and you run all 8 of those as well, and you hit that enough to level up Rogue on turn 1, yes, Call is involved, yes, Blues are involved, but my point is Rogue only has 2 different versions, and those decks are getting by just fine. Now, this is a little bit different. You don't have to draw into these, and how dead are these cards after you level up? Do you have to pack your deck full of a bunch of Spider-Mans just to hit this level up condition? I guess before I pass judgment on this character, I should look at what you get for satisfying this specific, and I like this. Man, I love this power. I wish it wasn't a yellow, but I get why it is. You become a 6/7, stay at 6, and you get the butt-kicking button. To borrow a phrase from the Invincible TV show. That seems willfully childish. The butt-kicking button. Main phase, pay a blue. Spider-Man has +3/+3 in stealth. And they give you reminder text for what stealth does. Which I know they've done in this set, so it's not like this is the first time we've seen it. It's just, this is what we want. As far as a set that we can go, new player, let's see, 1, 2, 3... 4, 5. So it looks like Stacks is counting 5 Spider-Mans. So yeah, that seems like it would be plenty. Is this like the level up you want? So these just turn into power-ups and you get no extra benefit from powering him up. There's no like... I'm trying to think of the old versus card. Lost City, where you power a guy up and they get +3/+3 instead of the +1. There are cards that have power-up effects like Spider-Man 2099 or Punisher 2099, but those aren't going to trigger off. I don't know. I wonder how dense your deck needs to be able to hit this, because if you pay the yellow, you're still getting a card, which is great. But if you can level up on turn 1, which is amazing. That's really strong, which is probably why they knocked this down to 4 instead of 5, because they want to reduce the probability that he gets a turn 1 level up. But you can still put like half your deck could be Spider-Man. So you're almost guaranteed, like, and maybe that's the way you build this guy, is you make half your deck Spider-Man, so you always level up on a yellow, and you just mulligan hard for that yellow to get that turn 1 level up, and you start smashing dudes as a 6/7, potentially a 9/10 with stealth, so you're getting into the back row, even if the opposing player is able to field a bunch of guys to a bunch of characters to prevent you from declaring attacks in the back row. You've got stealth, which is better than flight, because you're still coming even if they field a bunch of flyers. So there might be a legit, like, aggressive, strong Spider-Man here that comes down and like just hits fast. You throw what is the red gem? Is that reality gem, I think? So you can turn people face up again. Maybe throw in that Devil Slayer copycat combo that's people are so fond of. I think this has legs, man. Like, this isn't as straightforward as when I first saw Thor from the Legacy box, but I'm kind of getting like Thor adjacent vibes that I think there could be a legitimate hard aggro deck here. All of this is contingent on the idea that it's worth it to run the Spider-Mans and that you're getting that super early level up. I think the later in the game, if you're not leveling up until like turn 5 or 6, that's not going to work. So here's the Spider-Man card that we already saw because the Watch It Played channel revealed it as part of that Upper Deck ad. Obviously, you probably put this guy in this Spider-Man deck, even though you're not going to be able to play him. I think this guy is a very playable card. Even at 8/6, the stats for 5 are, I mean, not ideal. If he was just a blank 8/6 for 5, I don't think he would be that good, but he has this potential big upside to make safe attacks and go over things. So this card is definitely applicable. Oh, there's 2 different Spider-Mans. That's what they meant. Okay. So when everybody said I was close, I was sitting here thinking, like, this doesn't feel close to what I was saying at all. It's because there's 2 different Spider-Mans. Okay. So eventually Peter has a change of heart and heads over to join Cap and the Secret Avengers. Didn't he wear black suit when he was in Secret Avengers? Wasn't the whole storyline called, like, Back in Black or something like that? Or I guess that was after Civil War. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's been a long time since I read these comics, guys. I think I had 1 kid, or no kids, when they came out. All right, well, let's look at what Spider-Man does. Oh, so excited for these cards, man. Civil War is going to be a great box. I'm really pumped for this box. Level 1, anti-registration, 4/3/5. How you going to do my anti-reg Spidey like that, Danny and Ben? You give him the worst stat. Pro Reg gets 3, 4, 6, and this guy gets the worst combat stat line and the 5 health? How dare you? How dare you? Okay, so 4/3/5. I guess that's because the Iron Spider suit beat him up when he flipped on Tony. So he got his 1 hit point taken away. Amazing. All right, I'm back on board with the power on Spider-Man being called amazing. They got me. Combat, pay a green, Spider-Man strikes an enemy supporting character in combat. That's not that amazing. Yeah, because it works on any combat, this lets you deal with team attacks. Like it's kind of a pseudo, like an expensive monstrous, which could be cool. But if your opponent sees that you have a green and they have attacks to choose from, they're not going to declare their team attackers into your monstrous attack. Yeah, it lets him hit for 8, both coming and going on turn 1, assuming you draw into the green. 8 is a big number. Really all the way up to like turn 4, turn 5, 8 is still a super relevant number. Once you get up into like 6, 7, 8, it starts to be a little bit less relevant, but I would hope he's leveled up by then. Let's see how he levels up. When any number of enemy characters attack, Spider-Man gains that many XP. How much flight is going to be in the meta? If there's flight in the meta, this guy's unplayable because you play on turn 1, like your opponent's first attack is always going to be into your Spider-Man. If there's stealth and flight in the meta, they're going to hit him, they're going to turn him face down, then they're going to declare the rest of the attacks, or they don't know what they're doing. Which, I mean, yeah, so you always let your opponent have the opportunity to make mistakes, but if we're talking at a tournament table, this guy is going to be pushed out of playability. Now, kitchen table, that's different. You know, the kitchen table meta is always just kind of what everybody feels like playing. And if you say to your buddy, hey man, let me play this guy against a deck that isn't rotten with flight and stealth, potentially this could I really, in constructed versus at a high level tournament, I don't think this guy is going to level up. Again, meta dependent if it's a meta that doesn't have any flight or range in it, but even if we're just talking in this box, Pro Reg Spider-Man is going to eat anti-Reg Spider-Man's lunch. Like, this dude can level up on turn 1 and start stealth attacking this dude in the face for how much? 9. Yeah. Come on, man. You're going to, what, triple? No, all 4 of your shock to the systems to get out of that, starting potentially on turn 1? That seems bad. it seems like he's not going to level. Your opponent has too much control over this level up. What do you get, though? If you do level up, you're still amazing. Oh, and you get spectacular. That's so cool. Those power names are so good. Yeah, the artwork is amazing. You're right, Patrick. Yeah, these power names are fantastic. Just so spot on. He becomes a 9-6 and still with 5. Look, with 5 endurance, man, I want the butt stats. I want the 6-9. I want the 3-4. I don't want the 4-3. So his health is like, if this health value was swapped with the other Spider-Man, so the one that has the 3-4, the bigger butt, had the 5 hit points, that would make more sense to me. That would make these guys seem like they're on parity. Right now, Anti-Reg Spider-Man seems like a buster. But let me read what his next power is. Maybe I'm wrong. So Spider-Man, so it's basically the same power as Amazing, except he can also hit main characters. So potentially he's hitting a main character for 18. That's a big number, but he doesn't have flight, he doesn't have range, he doesn't have stealth. So you're going to have other ways to get there, or he's using that 18 to clear, their Dark Phoenix or their Gilgamesh or whatever out of the way while taking a hit back, clearing the way for potentially some other supporting character to come in. Man, I wish they would have wrote these in the other order, because if I would have seen Anti-Registration Spider-Man first, I don't think I would feel quite so burned. But in comparison to how good and cool, and yeah, this guy's going to be subject to some variance for sure. There's going to be some variance issues with this main character, but the stuff that he is doing is interesting and fun, and the stuff that this guy is doing is very straightforward and basic. This is a turn sideways guy, but he doesn't really, I mean, it's not like he's never going to level up, because your opponent does have to attack, and he has 5. Oh, how many experience does he need? He needs 5. So if your first attack each turn is into Spider-Man, which gives him no other experience, he levels up on the turn he dies. That feels terrible. That feels so bad. I think Stacks, you make an excellent point. If they would have flipped the stats with Anti-Reg and Pro-Reg, I think I would feel better about both characters. As it is, though, right here, I think Pro-Reg Spider-Man is the clear winner. If Spider-Man is your boy and you want to do cool things with Spider-Man, Pro-Reg is the main character you want to get your hands on more than Anti-Reg. I just don't think he levels up, man. I mean, and he doesn't even have something like Thing had, were built into like funnel attacks to a specific person. Like, you're gonna have to build this deck with, I guess, if you run Sentinels. Okay, so if I have to play this guy, I want a bunch of flyers, and I want cheap flyers that get out and make it hard for my opponent to declare attack. So they have to deal with those guys in order to get to Spider-Man. I want some kind of, I guess you got to run defense pumps, because or I guess if you're on Sentinels already, you run MCA to try to protect yourself against stealth, maybe a collar to protect you against stealth supporting characters if they're in the format. So, I mean, there is potentially a build here, but I feel like you're working really, really hard just to survive, and you're not even really doing that much. Like, you have to pay a red or a green to make him into this big crazy combat threat. Like, you work so hard to survive to get there, and then when you get there, if your wallet's empty because you had to vomit out all your resources to the board early game in the form of characters, then you might not have the locations to even pay for this stuff. And this stuff is only so good. I mean, 9 is going to hit a ton of main characters anyway. Like, do you need to double it? Again, this is, I guess, probably where you want this stuff is more in the form of an expensive monstrous, where you get to your opponent's in the position of having to declare a team attack. But 6 defense, they're not going to have to declare a team attack onto that. There's no decision. There's no pressure you're putting on your opponent with a 6 stat line on turn 7. They just single attack here, so with a supporting character, so this power's off if you're showing a red, or a main character if you're showing a green. Like, this is so play-aroundable. There's so many ways to just shut this guy down. Man, that's a little bit of a bummer. I gotta say, maybe out of all the cards, like Spider-Man and Black Widow are both going to be kind of hard to level. And that disappoints me because there's things about this card that I like, but it's an uphill battle. But let's look at his supporting character version. We have a 3-cost 6/4/1. 6 attack on 3 with no drawback. Look at the other cards that give us 6 attack on 3. We have like Maria Hill in photo, who only gets it for a turn. We have the creature from the Black Bog who can't attack. He just sits there and does nothing. And now we got this guy. Now the 4 on turn 3, that's fine. That's not a bad defense stat. But 6 attack on turn 3 is a legit great number. 6 attack on turn 3 eats everything. It's going to hit a bunch of the main characters at the level that they're at that point in the game. And his 4 defense is totally made up for by not being able to be ranged attacked. So if you're... I was going to say this could potentially help, but then the next thing I thought was Black Widow. You run this in Black Widow, and then people have even less desire to put characters in the back row. So I think this 3-drop is playable. Again, with all these characters, I want to see more multi-health characters because I want to play Captain America. But as a card by itself that isn't connected to me wanting to play a specific main character, this is a great card. That's a great stat line. Strucker, Ajax. So there are some other 3-cost guys on 6. Strucker is a 6/2, and that's still playable. This guy's a 6/4, so I'm kind of poo-pooing his small defense. But actually, we have other 6-drops or 3-drops with 6 attack that have even smaller defense. So clearly, I think this is a playable card. I think if you see this in like draft, and just to specify, because I noticed a lot of us have started talking about draft and sealed, but I don't know that every player knows what the difference is there. Sealed, you get a pool of random cards and you build from that pool. Draft, you use a cube and build artificial packs, and then each player in the draft picks one card at a time. So in draft, and then you build a deck out of the pool of cards that you selected. So in draft, you have a lot more control over what your card pool is, and it's sort of like a hybrid between sealed and constructed, kind of. So in both of those limited formats where you don't have access to the full binder and you're playing with these pools that are limited in kind of random, although less random in draft sort of ways, this guy is a home run pick. This is a great 3-drop, stands on his own, has some defensive tools to make it a little bit harder so your opponent has to actually get up in his face, and that 6 attack is potentially you play this guy, you crack something, and then you crack something up. Like, this guy could easily 2-for-1. He gets a stun on the turn you play him, and then your opponent has to clean him up on the next turn and throws a character into him. So I think there's a lot of scenarios where this Spider-Man is going to get double stunts. He can hit a ton of main characters and not get hit back. You know, main characters with the 2/4 or the 2/5 stat line, or what's this guy got? The 3/4. You know, they're going to get hit by this guy and not hit him back. He value trades with a bunch of stuff, and he can go not way up the curve. Like by about turn 5, the number 6 starts to be a little bit less relevant. But on turn 3, this is great. I mean, and on 5, it's not bad. It's still a play. This is a good card. I think this 3-drop is very playable. So Spider-Man, both of Spider-Man's supporting characters, I think, have homes in decks other than this specific chock full of Spider-Man deck. This Pro-Reg main character, I mean, my bias, how many times, I could not make my bias more clear. Cards that say add to your hand or draw a card, or cards that generate card advantage or something, I typically like a great deal. So this card is right up my alley in terms of having that built-in card that just lets me have one more card in my hand than my opponent. I like that a lot. I like that at level 2, he does press the butt-kicking button. I'm not going to enjoy saying that. That's a dumb phrase, but I love this main character. I think this guy is going to see play. I think he's going to be maybe not on par with Rogue or Thor, but in that kind of area of the game. There's a build here for a super aggressive Spider-Man that comes out, refills his hand as he's pouring resources onto the board and tries to run you over before you have a chance to get set up if you're playing control or mid-range. I'm excited for this main character, and I'm genuinely see myself playing both of these supporting characters. Anti-registration Spider-Man. Oh boy. I mean, there are some things that he can do. But he's kind of worse in every way than the Pro Reg one. Like, I think both of these cards probably want to be somewhat aggressive, but Spider-Man Anti-Reg just doesn't really have the tools to fulfill that. I mean, maybe we still haven't seen all the cards in the box, so there may be some more support that he gets. And in a wide open format where you're able to play this guy with things like Sentinels or other early game disruption stuff for your opponent that lets you kind of build up. Like if you think like a Kate Kelly deck, the kind of low cost flying roadblocks that your opponent has to struggle to deal with because you don't want them to get to your Kelly. Well, in this case, you don't want them to get to your Spider-Man. But in a very real sense, this guy's going to suffer from the Daredevil problem. He's just, if there is ever a meta where he starts to look good, it doesn't take that many shifts in a deck list to tech against what this guy's trying to do. I mean, Primeval Hunter eats this guy up all day long. Any characters with flight, if the Spider-Man character doesn't draw early game flyers, he's just not going to get experience. Is he going to be as hard to level as Black Widow? Because I think the community has all kind of caught on to the idea that Black Widow is going to struggle in a just Civil War box format. We really haven't seen much to help her out that much. I think if we're talking about new players, I think he's probably in a better spot than Black Widow, because the Black Widow play around is really direct. It says it right on the card. Oh, I just push all my guys to the front and then you don't get a level up. Cool. This guy, it might take somebody a few repetitions of the game before they catch on to, oh, if I stun the main character, then I can deny them that experience. But with experienced players, nobody is going to let this guy get experience. It's just not going to happen. I mean, maybe you run Moonstone. You know, again, kind of the Kate Kelly package, kind of the like Iceman's. Well, no, you can't run Iceman because you don't want to deny your opponent attacks. You want to deny them being able to hit this guy. Oh, seems tough. I'm excited to build with this Spider-Man. I'm not excited to build with this Spider-Man. But hey, maybe there's a deck there. I don't know. We also don't know what the rest of the tools are that are going to be on team for these guys once we see the full rest of the arc. So if he ends up being one of the worst main characters in a box full of main characters that are fun and exciting and look cool, I mean, that's okay. Somebody's got to be the worst. Whatever. And it's not like Spider-Man fans are out of luck. You know, Black Widow fans might be out of luck. You might not get a playable Black Widow in this arc. Maybe. That saying she's unplayable, I think, is a little premature. But we all can identify the problems that Black Widow has. Just like I think most people are going to be able to identify the problems that Spider-Man has. But if you're a Spider-Man fan, just put this back in the binder and get out the Pro Reg one and have a great time. You're why not? But if you're a Black Widow fan, you might want to go back to playing Shield Black Widow. That might be the only hope for that character to be super competitive. Maybe, I don't know. It's still, again, it still feels premature on all these cards. Even this Spider-Man, there could be some help that he gets. So I don't want to be overly critical. I think he looks worse than he actually is by virtue of the contrast here. Like, I read these first two cards and then I read this card and it's like, So had they come out in reverse, I think maybe I would have been a little bit less harsh on anti-Reg Spider-Man. But okay, I'm to the point where I'm just kind of repeating myself, so I think I'm gonna call it a day. Before I do, though, I want to comment on Civil War, the concept. We've been told multiple times by Danny, Ben, Upper Deck, Ryan, Mark, this is the set where the goal of the set was to bring in new players and make it really easy for them. And I think that's wonderful. I think we need to have this kind of product. I even think they could go a step further, which I talked about on my podcast yesterday, with the idea of a starter deck product of some kind. So, I'm thinking like Marvel Champions. You buy a character, you sit down and you can play. You don't have to do anything else. I mean, you should sleeve your cards. Don't be a savage. But after you sleeve your cards, you can sit down and play. Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, like all the other games have purchase and play right away type products. Versus doesn't have that. And maybe there's reasons why we don't. Maybe they can't package cards from different expansions together into one box for some reason that has to do with licensing that I don't understand or I'm not privy to. But suffice to say, the goal for Civil War, I support, I like. I think they did a really good job of making cards that are going to be straightforward and understandable for new players, potentially returning players. I mean, we do have some returning players. Shout out to Osh. Good to see him. Like, they made it all the way to the end of Quarantine Cup 3v3 with a fellow who had taken a step away from the game for a while and then came back for the event. So that's really awesome. And this is the kind of box that I think we can all get excited about, because unlike Monsters Unleashed, which I think was kind of another box that was meant to be a starting point, it was panned by the established players in a lot of ways. Part of it was the price point, but part of it was just the density of cards that didn't seem to do a whole lot. We're going to get some cards in this set, like Monday's previews. There were some cards that didn't do a whole lot. That's okay. This is a starting point. Now, I don't think every expansion should be like Civil War, and neither does Upper Deck. I mean, I don't think anybody thinks every expansion should be as new player friendly as possible without losing established players. Some of them should, though. I also think there's room in our game for expansions like Crossover or Legacy, where if you're not already in a, like if you come in and you buy a crossover box, we're not converting Versus fans on that purchase. Like, that's not even going to make sense. So I like this product. I like the goals Upper Deck set for the product. And while I still don't know every single card in the box, based on the cards that have been revealed so far, I think they have really hit the balance almost perfectly between something that's going to be accessible and understandable. There may be a few cards in this box that cause the odd wobble in terms of timing, or I'm not saying every rules question in the box is going to be 100% easy and understand, but a lot of them will be. This is not a Fantastic Four box, which was kind of supposed to be a jumping on point, but ended up having some of the craziest, most complicated rules we've ever seen. I mean, card game as a keyword is pretty intense. So I like that there's room in our game for both of these products, and I like that Upper Deck is arming the seasoned players with this Civil War product, because this is going to make all of us better evangelists for the game. It's going to make all of us better at getting new people in the door, because it's a super popular story. Again, I kind of poke fun at how it's everybody's favorite story. If there was a basic comic book fan starter kit, Civil War would be in that. Probably Dark Knight Returns as well. So I think that's a great place to kind of pull people in. These cards look, for the most part, absolutely gorgeous. While the MCU Battles, I do think, was another good starting point for players, in that it wasn't as basic, and the photographic cards in general are like more, they're all more pushed. They're all higher power level. So there were some confusing things in there, but not like X-Files. X-Files was way harder to get than MCU Battles. But MCU Battles, let's face it, some of those cards are just downright ugly. And that's not all Upper Deck's fault. Clearly, some licensing person thought it would be a good idea to put the logo for every movie over the panel. If you're trying to get somebody into the game, handing them a card that's kind of ugly doesn't help. These cards are gorgeous, man. The art choices that they've made in a bunch of these are really, really solid. Even the cards that I'm not a huge fan of, like Black Widow, how long did I go on about that art, even to say that I'm not sure how good that main character is going to be? So I think Upper Deck has, and Danny and Ben, credit to, and if I had the instruction book in front of me, I would read everybody's name who contributed to this set. and give them credit by name, because that's how up on this set I am. Yes, there's some cards I haven't seen yet, and if they're all turds, then I'm going to look a little silly, but I think this might be a set like Shield versus Hydra, like the Fantastic Battle, like one of those sets that the community gets when we get our hands on it. It's kind of electric, and everybody's really excited about the new cards. Utopia Battle, the Battles boxes in general do have a bigger impact than the 55 card cigarette packs, but this one, man, I'm ready for it. I'm tingling with excitement to get my hands on these Civil War cards and actually play some of these games. I know I could proxy the cards and I could play with them right now, but I like to play with the real cards, man. I want the new card smell. I want to crack open Civil War, and whenever cancer-causing chemicals were packaged and sealed into that box, to inhale them and feel the glory that is Civil War. That's how excited I am for this. Now I'm really rambling, so I'm going to call it a day. Yeah, Stacks, I hope they market this hard too. So before I say anything else, I'm going to call it a day. I can't wait to see you guys at an in-person event sometime soon, because it sounds like before the end of the year we might start seeing them again. Or at a digital event even sooner than that, I'm sure. So until next time, guys, go win some games.